Venezuela recalls all diplomats from the United States amid a political crisis. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, January 24. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Nicolas Maduro administration has ordered all Venezuelan diplomats home from the United States and is closing its embassy there. But the U.S. has refused to do the same in Caracas. Maduro said Thursday that if American officials had any sense, they would pull their own diplomats rather than defying his order to leave. On Wednesday, after opposition leader Juan Guaido declared himself interim president and was recognized by the U.S., Canada, and some Latin American and European countries, Maduro retaliated by cutting diplomatic relations with Washington and ordering all U.S. diplomatic staff in Venezuela to leave within 72 hours. But the Donald Trump administration insisted that Maduro is not now legally president of Venezuela because of a fraudulent election, and he does not have the authority to expel American diplomats. Meantime, Cuba and Russia are standing by Maduro. Now, Venezuela's closest ally, Cuba, is backing the socialist president against what it described as a coup d'etat to impose a servile government under orders from the United States. Havana expressed its disappointment, saying, quote, its unwavering solidarity with the government of the constitutional President Nicolas Maduro, end quote. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin is also in Maduro's corner. The Kremlin said on Thursday that in a phone call to his Venezuelan counterpart, Putin said, quote, or he expressed support to the legitimate government of Venezuela amid the acute political crisis that has been provoked from the outside, end quote. He also called for overcoming differences in the Venezuelan society through peaceful dialogue. Now, Russia has already denounced the U.S. decision to recognize Guaido as Venezuela's legitimate president, calling it an attempted coup. Meantime, the chief of Venezuela's military has reaffirmed his support for Maduro, saying the armed forces will never accept a leader imposed on their country. Defense Minister Vladimir Pralgino Lopez said his soldiers would be unworthy of their uniform if they failed to defend the Constitution. When he spoke to masses of supporters in Caracas and declared that he was assuming the presidency, Guaido had appealed to members of the military to reject what he called Maduro's dictatorship. He also called for new elections to restore democracy. Meantime, Venezuelans living in Trinidad and Tobago are celebrating the challenge to Maduro's presidency, but the Keith Rowley-led government says it will not intervene in the affairs of sovereign states. CNC3's Kamal Georges reports on the reactions in Port of Spain.
In Port of Spain, a few dozens gathered at the Queen's Park Savannah to send their own message to Nicolas Maduro just a few miles away. They say once Maduro is no longer leader, Venezuelans will return to their home country.
No more hunger, no more pain, no more persecution, no more discrimination, no more race. It's about unity. Venezuela always unite, and we wanted to let the world know that we celebrating today for our new president, Guaido. So Guaido is the one that is going to really carry on the strength of Venezuela.
But across the world, other governments and organizations are weighing in. The Organization of American States, along with other Latin American nations, gave their support to the opposition leader. Here at home, government played it safe.
We stand, as we've said throughout, as the Prime Minister has said, we stand ready to assist in whatever way we can, including in any mediatory position that we may be able to play. But we certainly don't think one government calling on another government to fall is the right way to go about it.
In other news now, residents of the British Virgin Islands will vote in a general elections a month from now. Premier Dr. Orlando Smith announced in the House of Assembly on Wednesday that polling day will be February 25th. Last November, Governor Augustus Jaspert announced that a general election would be held earlier than scheduled based on advice from the Premier, who decided to forego a by-election for the 5th electoral district. That district became vacant in October following the death of Representative Dolores Christopher. Now, 5 political parties have declared they will contest next month's general elections. The ruling National Democratic Party, the Virgin Islands Party, Progressives United, the Progressive Virgin Islands Movement, and the newly formed Reform Action Alliance. Over in Guyana, the High Court has begun hearing arguments in the challenge to the no-confidence motion, which resulted in the collapse of the David Granger administration last month. The government went to court after it had lost the motion on December 21 when government backbencher Chandra Prasad voted with the opposition. We get the details of the court hearing in this HGP Nightly News report.
After the first hearing, which concluded late Wednesday, Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams told the news media that he was surprised that former Attorney General Anil Nandlal had made submissions, even though the opposition did not file any legal proceedings. Mr. Williams stated that the government still relies on the Constitution, which stated that a 2/3 majority was needed in order for the vote to be passed in the National Assembly.
Obviously, the way he jumped up is because he understood the cogent arguments that were made. But what he said hasn't changed anything. It's a simple thing. No less a person than the former president of the CCJ, in looking at our Constitution, with 2 categories because of the words all elected members. And the other categories that were, the other articles that were mentioned, if you check them, you'll see it's 2/3 of all elected members. Not that simple or absolute.
Inside the courtroom, Nandlal during his arguments relied on the challenge of Attorney-at-Law Christopher Ram, who by way of constitutional proceedings is asking the court for a declaration that the no-confidence motion was properly, validly, and lawfully passed by the National Assembly on December 21, 2018. Contrary to Minister Williams' arguments about the 2/3 majority vote, Nandlal told the media that the Constitution is clear and that the government needed to follow this important aspect of the Constitution.
I had to draw the distinction between cabinet and the government so as to make the distinction which the Constitution makes. Cabinet must resign, but the government will remain in office. And there's a reason why, because cabinet is simply the nucleus of the executive. Government of Guyana includes much more than cabinet.
Meanwhile, St. Lucia's opposition leader Philip J. Pearce says the motion of no confidence which he filed last year against the government will now be debated on January 29th. We get the details in this report.
St. Lucia's first debate on a no-confidence motion in Parliament is a go. House Speaker Andy Daniel, according to the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party, has given the nod to proceed.
Since we submitted the motion of no confidence in Prime Minister Alan Chastanet to the Clerk of Parliament in November last year, the Prime Minister and his public relations people have been thrown into a tailspin.
Debate day is carded for January 29th in the lower house. But opposition leader Philip J. Pierre has accused the Alan Chastanet-led United Workers' Party government of drumming up tactics to dissuade public interest.
Having failed in their attempts to ridicule the motion, the Prime Minister and his public relations people devised a self-promotion and Project Dazzle and bluff plan to attempt to fool the people again. So the Prime Minister suddenly gives his first New Year address in 3 years and makes pronouncements that all of us know are not factual. Then the Prime Minister and his PR people suddenly start announcing the start of projects, which was stalled for the last 2.5 years, but if only designs and plans, but no processes to ensure accountability and transparency.
With an 11-6 majority in the House of Assembly, members of Parliament on the government side have generally shrugged off the opposition's confidence motion. Pierre needs 3 yes votes from Prime Minister Chasney's MPs to succeed. An apparent wave of no-confidence motions has swept Commonwealth parliaments in 2018. The only successful no-confidence debate to date brought down the Guyanese government in December, when MP Sharandas Prasad surprisingly voted with the opposition.
The anxious to see if any minister would vote with their conscience and register their vote against the policies of the Prime Minister.
Where Pierre is concerned, he is confident his MPs won't drum up surprises of their own.
I can tell you that with the certainty that today is Wednesday, it's impossible. None of my 6 MPs will vote in any other fashion, but vote no confidence in the Prime Minister. None of them.
And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, 2 Trinidadian boys who were in ISIS territory in Syria are heading back home. The details after the break.
Oh, which one? This looks good. But really, aren't these cute? No, I don't like that at all. Come on. No, I can't afford to mess this up. I don't have time. Okay, let's do that again. What was that? Anything in my teeth?
Two Trinidadian boys who were kidnapped 4 years ago by their father and taken to Syria, where he fought for ISIS, could return to their homeland this week. And National Security Minister Stuart Young said on Wednesday that they will be monitored by the state. The brothers, Ayub and Mahmoud Ferreira, had been in a refugee camp with their families, or the families of dead or imprisoned militants in Syria. But with the assistance of Roger Waters, founder of famous rock and roll band Pink Floyd, they were reunited with their mother, who was flown into Syria from Trinidad and Tobago. TV6's Keishan Haynes reports.
Minister of National Security doubling down on his statements that the government was doing all in their power to get those 2 boys home. But what appeared to be taking months for the government appeared to only take a few days for an international celebrity.
There's a massive difference. He has no responsibility. He's not responsible for your safety and well-being. He's not responsible for anything to do with Trinidad and Tobago. What he did is he used his private resources to send a private jet, as far as I could see, and to send resources to get the mother to Syria.
The government took blows from attorney Clive Stafford Smith, who facilitated the reunion. In a letter to the Newsday, he called the government's Nightingale unit, quote, utterly useless. On Wednesday, the minister told the media a breakdown in government-to-government contact made the release harder on their end. But even now, it doesn't appear that the government is taking an active role in the boys' return.
The government is not paying for their repatriation. The government from this level didn't get involved. What I know is that an approach was made to immigration, documentation was provided, and they will utilize that documentation to come home.
Minister Young expanded on his interaction with the boys' mother, saying she never seemed enthusiastic about their return. But once they are back in the country, they will be met by the Children's Authority and the Police Child Protection Unit. Minister Young says the government is weighing the option of a court order to have them be wards of the state, but it's too early to tell. He did say that anyone returning from ISIS will be closely monitored.
That the government and the authorities are doing everything within their power to act responsibly to ensure that these children are assessed immediately upon their return. So at this stage, our understanding is it may be tomorrow, but until someone gets on the plane and the plane takes off for Trinidad, I can't say with a degree of certainty.
And while those two boys will be returning home to their mother sometime this week, Minister of National Security says there may be more TNT nationals looking to return home. He's engaged the services of the United Kingdom to help with that adjustment.
Staying in the Twin Island Republic, a device to determine whether people are driving under the influence of marijuana is coming. Now, Attorney General Faris Al-Warari made the disclosure on Wednesday at the first consultation of the decriminalization of marijuana. CNC3's Akash Samaru tells us about what came out of that consultation.
Most in the crowd were in favor of its decriminalization. Of course, this is not a simple discussion. The AG did recognize its health benefits, but also pointed out...
Can cannabis lead to cannabis psychosis or schizophrenia? Yes, obviously. There's a significant medical issue attached to this. There is a real risk of addiction.
We've been promised that there'll be a lot more conversations like these because there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the regulations for decriminalization. For example, according to the AG, will you be okay with your school bus driver driving high? Will you be okay with your magistrate being high? Will you even be okay if your newscasters take a 2-pill before they go on air? Well, according to the Attorney General, some mechanisms are coming in place to ascertain who's pulling and who's not.
Because we have a breathalyzer, and I am drafting the law for a drugalizer, in case you want to know, because we are going to have persons submitted to giving samples for drug analysis on the road.
Now, testing drivers in the U.S. for marijuana has not worked well, as the substance can stay in your bloodstream for weeks after use.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, England crashed to their 4th lowest total against West Indies in their first innings of the first test. We'll tell you about a dramatic day 2 of play when we return. Stay with us.
Your heart to St. Kitts and make plans to join us at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 5 days of world-class entertainment from Wednesday, June 26th to Sunday, June 30th, 2019. See Butcher Benton live as he makes his epic return to St. Kitts. Also, French Montana and Davido. Popcorn and the legendary Smokey Robinson. This is just the first wave of announcements. Many more acts to come. For more information, log on to StKittsMusicFestival.com. The St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Seamer Kemar Roach stunned England with a 5-wicket haul as the visitors crashed to 77 all out in their first innings on day 2 of the opening test against West Indies at Kensington Oval on Thursday. Now resuming from lunch on 30 for 1, England astonishingly lost their last 9 wickets for just 47 runs as the innings folded 15 minutes before the scheduled tea interval, forcing an early break. Now Roach finished with figures of 5 for 17, while pacers Jason Holder and Azari Joseph picked up 2 wickets apiece. England's total was their 4th lowest against West Indies and the lowest ever at Kensington Oval, handing the hosts a healthy lead of 212 runs at the time. Now here are the highlights.
Look at the highlights of that session just completed. Burns playing on to the impressive Roach. 1 or 2 shots for England fans to dissect over. They're still playing a lovely drive, but then Roach for the up-team time, I think the 4th time, had Bairstow.
He's been all over Bairstow like a rash. And at the other end, Jason Holder was doing a wonderful job. That was a beauty to Joe Root, nipping back in. Butler tried to counter-attack. England have a long batting line-up, but it wasn't long enough. I don't think there was too much at fault with the batting. There was just some exceptional bowling. That was at fault. First ball, just a flap at it. It's a good catch in the deep as well. West Indians catching both behind the wicket and in general was excellent. And that was a beauty. Bounce from nowhere. Pushing Butler back. Again, a bit of a counter-attack from Sam Curran, as he has done in the last 6 months. Often he's come in and played this role. Folks got a good one. It was an excellent catch again behind the wicket. A couple of boundaries from Adil Rashid. Not enough. Too little, too late.
Very few drives, and then Shannon Gabriel pulling his length back on the back of a sequence of short deliveries to Curran and getting success. Then Rashid played a nice whip, then found the bounce and line and everything from Joseph. Too much. A lot of promise, Zari Joseph.
And West Indies chose not to enforce the follow-on, but their second innings mirrored their first as wickets tumbled late in the final session and they were reduced to 61 for 5 at one point. Moeen Ali took 3 wickets while Ben Stokes had figures of 2 for 31. But middle-order batsmen Shimron Hetmyer and Shane Dorridge brought back some stability in the innings to put on a 50-run partnership between them as the Windies closed on 127 for 6 with a lead of 339 runs. Hetmyer perished on 31 while Dorridge still hangs on with 27 from 42 balls. Let's take a look at the final session of today's play.
Look at the highlights of this session.
Well, the 2 openers, Campbell and Brathwaite, have to a brisk start. Early appeal against Campbell turned down from Jimmy Anderson, and rightly so. Both tried to be as aggressive as possible, put a 50-run partnership together, until Brathwaite played back to one, straight one from Moeen Ali, and got struck in front. Campbell not long after totally miscued a long hop from Ben Stokes and pulled out at cover. And Darren Bravo didn't stick around too long, and Moeen Ali accounting for him, caught at slip by Stokes. Then it was not too long after that Royston Chase It's drawn forward, caught at slip. Shimron Hetmeyer survived an appeal, a suspected, on the review, a suspected touch of the glove. I said not out. And Shea Hope at the other end left shortly after. Ben Stokes, the bowler. Shane Dowrich came in and joined Hetmeyer. And between them, they set about repairing the innings. Hetmeyer's usual aggressive self. Played some big shots, Dowrich, not to be denied. Played a few of his own. That was a beauty from Hetmeyer. That was 6. And shortly followed by that thumping back drive cut. Then he went. Sam Curran's only wicket of the test match so far. He's toiled very hard in conditions that didn't really suit him. And the West Indies end the day on 127 for 6.
That's the sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
That's Caribbean Newsline for News and Sports round the clock. Log on to CaribbeanNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Good night.